What is up, my dudes? Welcome back to the channel and to this rant review guideline to what could have made this game a little better of Starfox Zero. But before I get started, I would like to give a big thanks to the second players, Carl and Keith. They are some of my favorite people to talk about Starfox. If you love chill, fun gameplay, classic gameplay, I'm going to leave the link below for you guys to check them out. They are awesome dudes, man. You will love it, I'm sure. Now, before we get into Starfox Zero, we're not going to touch it yet. We must go back in time and take on what made this series so amazing, what made it so iconic, and go into what's kind of fallen apart over the years, why it has never lived up to that Starfox 64 pedigree. Except for Starfox 64 3D. That was amazing, but I would have expected nothing less. The year is 1994. Starfox is just released and is taking the world by storm. Now, I didn't see Starfox for the first time until 1996, and that was the first time I was being introduced to the Sega Saturn as well. And wouldn't you know, it was Virtua Fighter 2, so that game just blew my earballs out. And I just wasn't as impressed when I saw Starfox, but at the same time, I was 13 at the time, 12? Yeah, 12. I was able to take a perspective of, hey, this is on the Super Nintendo, bro. This is amazing. But what I will say is I instantly fell in love with the gameplay, very arcade-like and very, very addictive, very easy and intuitive to get into. It was, the game did get gradually harder, but it was just fun. It was a really nice use of this FX chip. I just wish they had done more with it. Now, the other thing that really had me fall head over heels for the game was the music. Not the rest of the game's music. Honestly, it was just that first levels. Ugh. It was amazing. It was amazing. I'm going to play a piece of it right now. Just listen to it. Oh my god. It's so epic. I mean, it painted a picture. It really brought you into this world of Starfox. It was just magical. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, even with other games of a more advanced console. Let's skip forward. 1997 rolled around. The 64 had been out for a little healthy time, and this baby released, Starfox 64, changed my life. Changed my life. I think it changed a lot of people's lives. It was just a perfect balance of multiplayer, which we had never experienced in that kind of fashion. 4-player dogfighting? Are you kidding me? It's amazing. But it also had an incredible story arcade mode. It was fun. There were different paths you could take. It was very unique. It was a lot of fun. It was superior to its predecessor in every way, and by a long shot. And that set the bar for what to expect in terms of multiplayer, in terms of graphics. And subsequently, I feel that bar has been lowered over time, obviously negating the 3DS remake. But Adventures was a new take on Starfox. It was the last Starfox that Rare worked on, and personally, I had fun with it. A lot of people like to talk crap about it, but I had fun with it. It was a beautiful game. It had terrible voice acting, but you know what? I wasn't there for the voice acting. I was just there to play a Starfox. I would have liked better storytelling or better voice acting, because the story itself wasn't that bad or out of the realms of what a Starfox should offer. But I think some of the gameplay could have also been tweaked. He could have had a blaster. There's just things that maybe if they had done a later sequel could have actually been a good game, with having different aspects to the game that we look for in a Starfox. In Adventures, you would go between areas and use your R-Wing to get there, and they were really beautifully designed. The game had amazing lighting. It was next level. There were elements of this game that looked better than an Xbox game. So I was blown away that we were only given snippets. Like literally just the same asteroid feel, maybe just kind of changed up a little. There was nothing more than that. And that's where they went wrong. Like, if there had been more involvement of the R-Wing in different ways, going to other planets or whatever, like a future in this style could work. But anyway, let's move on to 2005. Next is Starfox Assault. And I have mixed feelings about this game. On the one hand, the story is the most elaborate that the series I think has ever seen, including Star Fox Zero. It was just very in-depth. Things happen in that game that you don't want me to tell you about because it would hurt your soul to know if you're a Star Fox fan. Like, it was a serious game. But the problem is that it was given to an arcade company like Namco, who went with an arcade style. And I to be honest, Star Fox is an arcade game. Star Fox 64 was an arcade game, but there was just a grit to it. There was a realism to it, something that left you feeling invested in what was happening. Whereas I felt like Assault tried to introduce elements that just kind of took me out of the experience. The third-person aspects of the game where you're playing as Fox outside of his ship were terrible. Now, if they'd played more like adventures, I might have been like, oh wow, this is insane. But they got half of the game right, is what I'm trying to say. You know, there were just elements that really hit home and were really nice, and if there was more of that, would have been a great game, but then there were just things that soured the experience for me. I just didn't, it didn't feel Nintendo. It definitely felt third party, kind of like Metroid Other M. You know, you definitely knew it was another company making a Nintendo game. We're gonna skip over Mission Command, because that, to me, Mission Command's cool, but it's kind of like a sequel to Star Fox 2, if you will. If you've ever played the Super Nintendo classics, Star Fox 2, then you'll know what I mean. It's literally the big brother of that. And yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. But fast forward, we get to Star Fox 64 3D. Amazing game. This is how you do a remake. They redid all the textures. The textures look great. The water effects on Zonus, amazing. The game looks gorgeous. I don't care how you slice this. And the 3D was fantastico. Like, it was incredible. I was so happy with how the game turned out visually. The other thing that made this game, because I mean, you know, I'm not even going to talk about the story mode because it's the same thing. The multiplayer, they gutted everything from the 64. They put additional levels with additional obstacles within the levels. They put question mark boxes like Mario Kart, so there were like power-ups involved, and it was amazing. The controls were really good. The sense of speed was excellent. Like, it was exactly what a multiplayer should be like for this game. The other thing is, on the 3DS, if you were playing with friends, I mean, that's the only way you could play. That was the downside of this game. You couldn't play online. I just remembered that. But if you played with your friends, you would have you could have a face cam from the camera on the 3DS showing their face, and it would take snapshots of their facial expressions when they would lose. It was so funny and clever, and it just hurt that it wasn't an online experience. Now we move forward to Zero. I'm so excited for Zero because I'm like, this is the first console release in so long, and like, I hadn't been this excited for Star Fox so long. And, you know, I saw Shigeru Miyamoto at that first E3 where they showed it off, but not really. They just showed it blurred out and him using the gamepad to control it. And I was like, ooh, gamepad controls. This is going to be awesome. But at the same time, I was like, you know, Nintendo, you have to do traditional controls as well. There's no way they wouldn't do that. So I wasn't really worried about it. I wasn't thinking about it too much. And when they released the game and it was literally only gyro controls with the gamepad, I had to cringe. It was terrible. It was a terrible choice. Now, I understand that Nintendo did this to force people to experience the game the way that they created it because they knew otherwise they might not. But you should have given people the choice, you know? If anything, that could create new replayability. You know, once you try, you're like, wow, this is fun and accurate and cool and whatever. You might play it like that, but you can't force. And this has been a big problem with Nintendo. You can't force people to play with your gimmicks, you know? If they work really well, then they'll speak for themselves. But if they're being forced on you, it doesn't feel right. And the other thing is by doing something like this, you made it hard to fulfill other aspects, those pillars that you're supposed to meet when creating a Star Fox game. I mean, the formula is still there from 1997. What are you doing? So you alienated us through the controls, Personally, I say I love them. I freaking love them. You're gonna see from my gameplay that I'm pretty good at them. You get used to it, you figure out how it works properly, you just have to spend some time with it. Now, I say the controls when I actually mean the gyro forced controls. Other than that, Nintendo actually did something very cool here. They took the classic setup with your plane axis being controlled by the L and R buttons, and they've moved that control to your right joystick. So dual joystick vehicle control just feels amazing, especially once you get used to it. And I could totally see this being one of those elements that stays as a mechanic moving forward with this series. But, you know, it would have been nice to be able to play this game traditionally. There is no multiplayer the way there should be in this game. You get multiplayer, but it's literally you and a buddy co-op. And you'd think, ooh, yeah, co-op, we're both in planes. I'm Slippy and you're Fox, or I'm Falco and you're Fox. Like, no, no. One person controls the plane, and that's the person who gets the most boring job, and that's on the Pro Controller. You control the plane, you can, you know, reflect bullets, and you can shoot just green bullets. You can't shoot anything good. You can't charge up, you can't lock onto anybody, you can't do anything fancy. You just have to avoid bullets. That's it. And the other person gets freedom, and it's amazing. But even then still, it's cutting out half of the challenge. So it perplexes me as to why they went with this. Now further, they made an experience that once bought would even out the cost of the game to exactly $59.99. And it was called Starfox Guard. The reason I cringe at this game is because when Nintendo was first getting into Android gaming, the kinds of games that they were releasing, I'm like, this is exactly like that. Why wouldn't you put Guard as an Android game and have like a set price like Mario Run? I don't know, but all I know is the game is very boring. You know, I've had minimal fun with it, and I've played it a couple times, you know, just to feel it out, to make sure it's as cruddy as I think it is. It's not complete trash, but it's like, why did you do this? I don't get it. Why wouldn't you have made an app that was the dogfighting side of things, so we could have actually had a multiplayer to work with? Why wouldn't you do this? Like, it baffles me. And especially when you look back at 3DS's multiplayer, it was so on point that all it needed was online accessibility, and you would have had a selling point. People would have bought Starfox just for that, and then played the rest. Like, why do you? It was something that happened with the Wii. It happened with the Wii U, and you've cured that aspect with the Switch. So I'm really happy for where you've come, but you know, you alienated people into playing your games the way you wanted them to. Yes, the Wii U and the Wii had choice with certain games, none of which were your, well, Smash Brothers, but none of which were really first-party titles. The games that mattered, Metroid, Mario, you know, you just made that mistake and shouldn't have. And I believe that looking at all of this and looking at Star Fox Zero, you can see how it could have been something really special, because at the end of the day, Star Fox Zero's story is so well done. It is so well done from start to finish, and it totally represents like Star Fox 64's story kind of retold. It's so one-to-one. Toward the end, when you're gonna fight Andross, there's like a really cool moment if you take the right path where you meet up with Fox's dad, and it's like so sick to get some backstory. They've changed things around, like when Slippy would get taken out in the original game, you know, being the annoying one, he's not as annoying anymore. And you know, Peppy, they're taking into consideration his age a bit more, and he's the one who you know, like there's little things throughout the game that make it feel different and more modern than 64, but they also add a whole lot more ways to go and different aspects to the game, like Star Wolf. you face off with Starwolf many times in the game, and sometimes even during a level's run, they'll fly in, taunt you, and you lock onto them and they'll take you elsewhere to fight. And I'm just like, dude, this is cool. I don't understand why people don't like this, but it really is the controls. They alienate so many people. I feel like if you were to do what you did with Mario Kart 8 and redo it, make it play with traditional controls and also have gyro controls, but you release it on the Switch, you know, like redo what you guys tried to do, like, you know, maybe some actual co-op and some dog fighting, you would have a game worth $60. And I think a lot of people would pay for it. But I just think the game at its core has the potential to be so awesome for fans. You know, a lot of people also, they make a big deal about the graphics. But when you look at what they did with the graphics all around, it almost seems like a mishmash of like what the game should look like and paying homage to the older generations. But they kind of rehashed everything, and I'm hoping going forward with new Starfox games, they'll start to really develop what they could do, not just with the overworlds, but with the gameplay. You know, how they could introduce third-person aspects to the game and have them be successful. You know, there's so many good ideas that I have, and that just, I'm sure Nintendo employees have, but you just need to, like, I don't know, rethink it. Let's have a new game and really make this happen, because Starfox can be so popular. And actually, you know, I'm saying all this, and I still haven't played Starlink, and I hear that the Starfox bits of Starlink are amazing, and the only thing really worth playing Starlink at all for. So, you know, I'm glad that they've made a boost in that arena to a third party to kind of have Starfox be exposed to the world again. So hopefully maybe at E3 when I hear about a new Starfox, that would be... Anyway, speaking of E3, guys, I'm going to tie up this video. It's over. This is the end. But my next video is going to be my E3 predictions for Nintendo. I have a lot of crazy out there thoughts and theories. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. If you're a Starfox fan, sound off. Let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Hope you have a beautiful day.